Dr. Tarcia Huber here, your favorite math professor, and in this video we're going to talk about how to solve percent problems. Okay, it's really pretty simple once you learn these four words. The words are what, is, of, and percent. What is what we're looking for, which is the unknown. All right, we typically use X for the unknown, but you can really use any variable you want, but I'm going to use X for the unknown. Is represents equal. It is what it is. All right, and of is multiplication. And then with percent, anytime you deal with percents in mathematics, you have to convert it to a decimal in order to perform an operation with it. So if you have a percent such as 30%, in order to convert it to a decimal, you're going to do exactly what Beyonce said. You're going to move it to the left, to the left. Yes, everything you want in the box to the left, you're going to move that decimal place 2 places to the left. And 30% now becomes 0.30. All right, so once you learn those four things, it will make solving percent problems a little bit easier. So let's look at some examples. Our first example is what is 50% of 320? Okay, so we're going to take all those words that we just learned, we're going to translate it into numbers and symbols so that we can solve it. So remember, what is the variable what you're looking for? That is X. Is equal. 50%, that's a percent. So what you want to do is you want to convert it to a decimal. 50%, if you take that decimal and move it to the left 2 times, that now becomes 0.50. Of represents multiplication, and anytime you have a number, you just want to drop it down. And so in this equation, what you have is X is equal to 0.50 times 320, and all you do is multiply that out. You can use a calculator, because on the TSI exam, you can use the basic calculator. That ends up giving you 160. So 160 is 50% of 320. And when you think about it, that's half. That is half of 320. Let's look at another example. For our second example, it says 10 is what percent of 200? So we're going to do exactly like we did on the last one. We're going to translate these words into symbols and numbers. Anytime you have a number, it just drops down. So the 10 drops down. Is represents equal. What represents the unknown, X. What percent? Of represents multiplication. And 200 is a number, so it drops down. Now this ends up giving us 10 is equal to X times 200. So we have to do a little bit of extra work here to actually get to what that unknown is, because remember, X is the unknown. That's what we're solving for. In order to solve for X, X has to be on the side by itself. To get rid of anything on the side with X, you have to undo the operation that is being performed, which means you do the opposite of that operation. So if you look at the side of the equation with the X on it, it says X times 200. Times is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So if I want to get that X on the side by itself, I would need to divide both sides by 200. And when I divide both sides by 200, the 200s on the right side cancel and leave me with just X. And 10 divided by 200 is 0.05. So X is equal to 0.05, but in this case, the what that we were looking for was actually a percentage. So since that is a decimal, I need to go back and convert that to a percent, since it says what percent. Since I go to the left 2 times when I'm going from percent to decimal, then to go back from decimal to percent, I'm going to go to the right 2 times. So 0.05 ends up being 5%. So 10 is 5% of 200, okay? Let's go look at one more example. All right, and for this last example, it says 12% of what number is 36? And we're gonna do exactly like we did. We're taking the numbers and the words and we're converting them to numbers and symbols. So 12%, since that is a percent, I need to convert it to a decimal. So take that decimal, which is here, and move it to the left 2 times, and that becomes 0.12. Of represents multiplication. What number represents the unknown, which is X. Is represents equal, and 36 is the number, so I just drop it down. So that gives me the equation 0.12 times X equals 36. Remember, the goal is to get X on the side by itself. So I got to get rid of that 0.12 that's over there with X, and that's 0.12 times X. So I will undo multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.12. So the 0.12s are going to cancel, leave me with X on the left side. And 36 divided by 0.12 actually ends up being 300. And so 12% of 300 is actually 36, all right? And again, you can use a basic calculator on the TSIA exam. So you could just plug that into your calculator. And so that's how you solve percent problems. If you can remember those 4 things that we talked about in the beginning, you'll be able to solve any type of percent problem. So if you have any questions about any of this, don't hesitate to put your questions in the comment. Thanks again for watching, and remember to like this video if it helped you.